Okay, that's a huge challenge. You know, I showed the picture where your feet, the dead pedal is right up against the tire flop. The tire flop is the space that the front tire occupies. So through its suspension travels, as it rotates, it consumes a lot of room. That's why the wheel liners are so big. But that's one of the big challenges architecturally is how do you keep a good pedal box? So the space for your feet, the gas and the brake, a decent dead pedal, and have those positioned straight in front of you. Some exotic cars, if you get in them, you can see the pedal box isn't in front of you. It's actually narrow, pinched, and inboard because of that design constraint. But we worked really hard right from the beginning to make sure that we didn't have that. You get in the car, you don't have to step over any really high rails. The pedal box is generous, it's roomy, and so that you hit right on a big design challenge. That's more of an architectural challenge than a design challenge, but that helps. That's really fundamental to how you position the occupants in the car.
We maintain also detachment. We maintain the same door opening that we have in C7 in C8 by doing that.
He's talking about the length of the door, so when it opens you have a big opening, because there's a tendency to want to compress that because the front tires are so far rearward, you're sitting so close to them. Yes, back here.
It seems like there's no divider between the passenger compartment and the engine compartment. Do you have much engine noise inside?
Look at the car carefully. When you open the hatch, you'll see there's a window. There's a bulkhead between you, metallic below, so it's aluminum, and it's got a lot of acoustics, both on the engine side and on the passenger. The whole construction is almost 2 inches thick. And then there's a mid-glass that we call, so a glass between you and the engine. It's actually almost 9 millimeters thick. It's almost like 2 windshields sandwiched together. It's a relatively small piece of glass, but it's very, very thick. And that was one of the challenges. We did not want you to hear the accessory drive. Accessory drive is high frequency, kind of whiny noise. What you want to hear is intake and exhaust. And so we talked about it a lot yesterday. I won't go into all the technical detail, but that was a big challenge, getting rid of that high frequency noise, but letting the music in, getting the sound that you really like in. So yes, there's a lot.
We get that question a lot. There's the two things that people had preconceptions, the noise and the heat. And I'll say this car is substantially quieter and cooler than the previous car.
Very, very comfortable for long trips. All the way in the back.
I've enjoyed all the Corvettes I have, and I'm looking forward to this one. But I use these cars in high-performance driving events where the shoulder dumps were required. I saw in one of your pictures that you did have one seat configured in the 5-point RSL line. The outside vendors have told me that it will be 20 months at least after they receive their car before they can provide any kind of RSL anchoring. Does Corvette and Chevrolet have any way of improving on that, possibly just offering a fastening system to go with the competition seat?
Well, historically, GM, you guys want to modify the car to go on the track with 5-point belts. We're not in that business. Our lawyers won't let us get in that business. And so, because then we're validating for safety on the track. We validate for all the street use cases. And so we kind of depend on the aftermarket to take care of that need. We'll be helpful at times, trying to guide people, but we can't be design responsible for what they're doing. So there's not a lot we can do, honestly, in terms of accelerating that. Yes, right here.
Fuel tank location on a new car.
So, like today's car, we have 2 tanks. They're sandwiched on either side of the engine compartment, which is a huge packaging challenge. And so you see those big inlets where the quarter panel has a big scoop in it. That's wrapping the air actually around the fuel system. So, like today's car, we bury the fuel system inside the body structure, so it's not just the exterior skin. There's actually metallic surfaces on all sides, inside, outside, underneath, for crash protection. And we've crashed this car at very high speeds to guarantee there's no fuel leaks. The fuel tank is about the same size as today's car, and the fuel economy is about the same as today's car, so the range is about the same size as today's car. 18 and a half. Yep. Back here.
Hi, John Smith, Melbourne, Australia. Harlan knows what I'm going to ask. But first, let me tell you that 3 years ago, Ford Australia started selling Mustangs, manufactured here in America, right-hand drive. And for the last 3 years, the Mustang has been the biggest selling sports car in Australia. So I can only imagine what the Corvette will do. So my questions are, when are you going to start building right-hand drive cars? When will they be available in Australia? And other right-hand drive countries, but I don't care about that. It's widely rumoured in the Australian press that Holden, General Motors Holden, will be bringing in upmarket models. Will they be bringing in a base model with the equivalent of US 60,000 so that a retired bus driver like me has got a chance of buying one?
Thank you for coming. I appreciate your travel. And what I wanted to say at the reveal when we announced right-hand drive, because to that crowd it was no big deal. Who cares? I wanted to say, Australia, we're looking at you. That's what I wanted to say at the reveal. They didn't want me to. But I've talked to people from Australia for years. We know people are spending a fortune converting their cars to right-hand drive. So from the beginning, and this is a way, actually putting the engine in the back makes it a little bit easier. You don't have as much stuff to move around an engine because the front is kind of symmetrical and open. So it's actually a little bit easier, slightly less expensive to do. It's still very expensive. But we really wanted this to be a global car, so for UK, Japan, and really especially Australia, because we've never been there. We have a lot of passionate car folks there. We're not going to talk about future timing. We did indicate we're going to sell this car around the world. You're not going to have to wait too long. What I can tell you is Australia has no longer wait than, say, Europe. All of it's coming out together, and we'll announce that shortly.
Thank you.
Right here.
Where did you end up placing the battery, and what if you need to jump the car or want to install something like a battery tender? How would you do that?
So the question is, where is the battery? So today we have the engine in the front and the battery in the back. That's all about weight distribution. As soon as you put the engine in the back, then you're focused on getting stuff towards the front because you don't want it to be too rear biased. That's why we have a carbon fiber extruded rear bumper beam. Take weight off the very back of the car. So the battery is in the front. It's right on the center line. It's right behind the frunk. So the plastic panel that you see behind that just snaps right out. And the battery is sitting right there. To put a tender on the car, we have a power point inside the frunk. So if you open it up, you look to the left, there's a bunch of things there. There's a switch for emergency escape switch. And then there's also a port there that you can plug a tender in. You just leave the hood cracked a bit. So everything's reversed from today's car. Right here in the center.
Why is 195 horsepower not more?
That's what I keep asking them engine guys. We always want as much as we can, and there's a limit to technology. We always do as much as we can. We don't put a number on ahead of time because we don't want them to stop once they achieve it. We always want as much as we can. If it ended up 485, 495, 505, we would have taken as much as we can get. But there is a limit for engine durability, emissions, all the other things that we have to do. And it's pretty cool. You have almost 500 horsepower now out of a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8. You can't buy that anywhere else in the world. So,
And it's pretty close to the 7-liter LS7 that we did with 6.2.
yeah, you think about how far we've come, 495 versus 505. That was 7 liters, 7,000 RPM.
Naturally aspirated.
And meeting all, there's a lot of new legal requirements, emissions requirements that we have to meet. So it's very, very challenging to get any horsepower. You see everybody else going to small displacement charged engines. That's the way the world's headed. But talking to you guys, we know you don't want a turbocharged 4 in this car. So, do you? You guys want it now? That's what I thought. So,
and then the performance, 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, makes
that's pretty
this
good.
amongst the fastest of all the Corvettes, no matter what the horsepower we've had in the past.
We don't spend a ton of, we do development work at the Nürburgring, We do some fast laps. It's not the top of our priority list, but you may see a ring time at some point.
There was a question that we had versus from the cell phone. New technology.
Oh, we do.
It was on the color rollout, and we do have, people who have the early orders. There is what we agreed to do with Bowling Green was roll out colors to improve the quality process so they can get the full line speed going. So we have, like the first order cycle, there's 6 colors. Second order cycle, I think we add 2 more, and then the third cycle we'll get all the colors in. So the question was on Accelerate and the Zeus Bronze, so they'll be in the third cycle of orders. So just wanted to answer that. It was from somebody watching us out there.
I'm already here.
Are you still using a 12-volt system?
Yes, that came up yesterday. There was rumors out there for 48 volts. We were never even looking at it. I don't know where that rumor came from, but it's still 12 volt throughout the car. Yep.
1LT, no HUD, I take it.
As it is today.
Yep, we have, we can go over that, but we have 3 trim levels, and we really concentrated the 1LT, is a great car. You can see it outside as the black car with the 1LT, and then 2LT has a lot of features, things including the navigation, EDR, the Bose system we talked about, the powerful mirrors, memory seats on both sides, blind zone alert or cross traffic. A lot of features in the 2LT. And the 3LT is the ultimate. That has a full leather-wrapped interior, suede upper, a lot more colors available. And so that's really the ultimate. So we really try to position the car at 3 levels for whatever type of Corvette you're looking for.
On the new comp seat, if somebody was to order 1LT in that comp seat, have you ever thought about, in that particular case, having a comp seat on the driver's side and taking to it, right?
We tend to match the driver and passenger seats historically, but people have suggested that.
Yeah, we've heard that from a few people. I'd be curious how many people would want to do that. So a comp seat for driver and one of the other seats, a more touring seat. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So 1%. Okay, 2 more questions. Sorry, we're gonna have to close this up. Yes, right here.
A manual switch for the folding mirrors?
Yes. Yep. Maybe we have time for 3.
That was an easy one. We like those.
Yes or no questions only.
What are the things you like best about the new interior from your perspective?
So many microphones. I think that the special part about it to me is. Oh, sorry, I'll repeat the question. The question was, what do I like most about the new interior? I think for me the biggest part is we've pretty much banished plastic from the interior. Everything you're touching is going to be a wrapped good. It's going to be real aluminum, real carbon fiber. It really feels like a premium exotic sports car. Corvette interiors have been evolving and continuously improving over the years, but we feel that this is a giant leap forward. So.
One more, last one. Pressure's on, all right.
The differences between the sound systems, the noise cancellation, is it in both, is it in one? Talk a little bit about the differences.
So noise cancellation is in both. There's less content in the standard Bose audio. Still pretty good audio.
It's still a
system.
10-speaker system,
Yeah,
standard.
10 speakers, so not quite as many speakers, not quite as much power, but it still does have the noise cancellation.
The standard system's actually pretty close to our up-level system on the 7th gen car. So we kind of started where we left off and then we went even further with the Performance Series.
Okay.
Performance traction management.
Oh, PTM. If you get Z51, you get performance traction management. Period. That's like it is today. It's not. Harley should answer this one.
The magnetic ride and the performance traction management, which we call FE4, that comes together. So you have to get both together.
Sorry.
All right.
We should.
Okay.
I'm for it. Okay. Other questions? Right here.
The competition seat, does it have a provision for a submarine strap for a 5-point harness? And is there rear brake cooling?
There is rear brake cooling. We had this question yesterday about track belts. We don't put provisions in that are explicitly designed for track work. Our lawyers simply won't let us do that. We don't know what the aftermarket content's going to be. We can't stand behind what they're going to do. We can't take that liability. So we try to do the best we can to give them the best chance of providing really good accommodations for hardcore track work. But the answer is no, other than the sports seat has a notch in it, the way it's designed. If you look at it out there, there's a path to get the belt a good place to come up into your lap. Next door.
So for the fans of Corvette racing here, for Le Mans next year, will we see this mid-engine car for Le Mans? And will we see it in the accelerator yellow?
We'll be making an announcement shortly. All I can say.
Okay.
Back here.
Is there something about the electrical system being faster? Can you tell us a little bit more about the electrical system?
Sure. We're one of the first users of a new electrical architecture that will be used across General Motors products. It is quite a bit faster, so speed of messaging much faster. The big part of it is cybersecurity, so every message is encoded, even though there's not been any high-profile hacks of publicly, vehicles. It's going to happen someday, and so the fact that cars are so connected, either through your cell phone or OnStar for us, we have to take precautions to make sure nobody can come in and tamper with your car. So that cybersecurity is a big part of it. And then we're also adding over-the-air, so we can download new calibrations into the car, improvements in the car over the air, which I think will be very helpful every time we introduce some new features. Customers are always saying, well, can I get that in my current car? Usually the answer is no. With over-the-air updating, there'll be some stuff that we can actually make backwards compatible and help cars stay updated.
Even the past tuners would mess around.
We got more questions.
Noise level, C7 versus C8 inside.
So that's going to be one of the things that's going to be most surprising to people. When you get in this car, you'll know in 100 yards it's a different kind of car. Having the rear tires so much farther rearward, and because sound pressure level, what you hear drops by the square of the distance, those big speakers, the big wide rear tires, are quite a bit farther away, so you actually start with less tire noise. And the fact that we wanted to isolate the passenger compartment from the accessory drive, which is only about 12 inches from you, so you've got the drive belt, the tensioners, the generator, the compressor, all of those are sitting right over your shoulder, and a lot of mid-engine cars traditionally kind of sound trashy, kind of crude, kind of race car-like. And we didn't want that experience. So that's why I was talking before about plumbing the intake noise around the side of the car and up towards the door, because we have a very well insulated bulkhead between the occupant compartment and the engine to take all that high frequency noise out. So this is far and away the quietest Corvette we've ever done. A lot of that road noise is taken right down.
And we've got that question a lot, both, I think there's a preconception about noise and heat. And everybody says it's both quieter and cooler than the previous car, which a lot of people, because we don't have the hot exhaust going through the tunnel anymore and things like that. So even when we were doing the cars, when we first got in the early cars, we were like, these are way too quiet. We gotta make the exhaust louder.
So yeah, we've spent a lot of time taking the noise you don't want to hear and getting rid of that, but amping up the noise that you do want to hear. So that's fundamental to this architecture. Yes, right here.
When you're a student driver like me, you're used to a totally circular steering wheel. How is it going to be to do the ones that are more
The corners?
geometries other than your square? You've got the U shape. How does that affect people that would transfer into that? When I get partway through, it's going to bother my turn.
I was totally with you. When we first started talking about even the original flat bottom wheel, I was like, wheels are meant to be round. Why would you ever make a wheel that wasn't round? And so actually what we did is when we first started talking about this squircle, they call it, kind of a squarish circle, there was a lot of us that were kind of skeptical that why do you want all those corners on the steering wheel? And so we actually used 3D printing. We printed some steering wheels and put them in a current Corvette, and we lived with them as daily drivers to see what it was like. And there's a little bit of adaptation, a little bit of a learning curve, but it's surprising how quick you get used to it. And those corners almost seem like handles. Like in typical turns, you grab a corner and you know exactly where the wheel is. And it's amazing the number of comfortable hand positions there are. If you're a 3 and 5 person or 3 and 9 person, you have a full rim to grab on. If you're more a 10 and 2 person, you have a full rim to grab on with nothing in your way, so you're not grabbing in a transition where the shape is transitioning. So I was a big skeptic early on, and I became convinced that not only was it just fine, it's going to be great.
And I would say the car in normal driving, the steering is so quick, you can keep your hands at 9 and 3 and anything but an extremely sharp turn, just driving the car around. You know, you can do your F1 imitation. It's really actually a lot of fun.
Yes, back there.
Yes, the dip and cracked wheels, have you considered this in the CA? I mean, has there been some thought, as a daily driver, this is a concern for me.
Yes, so you're talking about, the question was for people listening outside, so have we tried to do something to improve the robustness of the wheels, the road wheels? You're talking about steering wheels, now we're talking about road wheels. And the answer is yes, even though we've historically designed wheels the same way to the same loads, we have seen an increase in the number of people bringing their cars in with a bent or a cracked wheel. And so yes, we increased the load. We came up with new testing actually. And if you look at the inside rim, there's actually a little more meat, so it's directionally incorrect for mass, unsprung weight, but it does make the wheel tougher and more robust. So, yes, right here. Question is, have we run the car at the Nürburgring? Yes, we have several times. We do development testing there on all our programs. Everybody's interested in the fast lap. That's the last thing we do. It's never been something we prioritize. They're also making it difficult to run fast laps. So we were there actually just this July to do our final tweaking and tuning. Actually, that's the top speed video that we just showed you while we were in Germany. We did that too. So we did get some good data. We're pretty happy with the car, our handles there, and we may publish a lap sometime. Yes.
So on my YouTube channel, I get the question, will chrome wheels come back?
Question is, will chrome wheels come back? Well, I'll never say never, but we do not have any plans right now to bring chrome wheels to come. How many people want chrome wheels? Let's see. How many people don't like it that these people want chrome wheels? Uh-oh. The tide is turning here.
I would say take a look at the car we have on display, the ceramic car, which has the ultra bright, polished, machined aluminum, and that's, I don't know if the request is specifically for chrome, but if the request is for a bright wheel, that's our brightest wheel. I think a lot of people like bright wheels, but we thought this was a more honest finish and the chrome plate things.
And the whole industry, honestly, is moving away from chrome, just from an environmental impact and other reasons. So we are too. Two more questions. Yes, right here.
Will 0 to 60 ever be released for the stock car?
Absolutely.
All the magazines.
Question is, will the 0 to 60 be released for the stock car? When we release our times, that's why we said 0 to 60 under 3. We want to test a bunch of different production spec cars before we make a claim. But we're doing both FE3 and FE1, and we'll publish those numbers probably in the not too distant future. I think the thing people are going to be most surprised about is how close they are. People are going to think, oh, they're bragging about C51, that's the fast one, the other one's going to be a lot slower. You'd be surprised how close they are. And last question, all the way back in the corner. Sorry. So he's talking about Ackerman correction angle, so that's chassis calibration. Most of you know it as the chatter that you get when you're, especially at lower temperatures, when the tires have stick-slip properties that are very sensitive to that, especially on C51 and some of our up-level models. You feel that kind of chatter, the tires stick and slip as you go around a tight corner. That is gone. Okay, I think that's it. I'm sorry we have to cut it off. Thank you very much for coming.